Happening tonight, a big moment for one of TV's most iconic programs. 60 Minutes is back for its 58th season, but this year with a new person in charge. Former executive producer Bill Owens stepped down in April, saying it had become clear that he would no longer be allowed to make independent decisions based on what was right for the show. That came after Paramount agreed to pay $16 million to President Trump over an interview with then Vice President Kamala Harris in the run-up to the election last fall. And joining me now is CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter to talk about it. Good morning, Brian. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, the 60 Minutes newsroom has faced intense political pressure from President Trump. Is that going to be continuing into this new season?
Yeah. This was an ugly chapter for 60 Minutes last season, and it was all because of the president's lawsuit against the news magazine. That lawsuit was always ridiculed by legal experts for being frivolous and meritless. But because Paramount was trying to get a merger approved by the Trump administration, it felt pressure to actually pay the president ultimately about $16 million toward his future presidential library. This kind of payoff or shakedown is something that it now appears to be a playbook for the president and for his allies. So that Paramount story received a lot of attention last season in 60 Minutes. It also threw the news magazine into real turmoil. I heard about screaming matches behind the scenes at the CBS News offices. But now, as you mentioned, a new leader is in place at the news magazine. A new season starts tonight. And I think viewers are going to be watching to see if the product has changed at all, if it has been watered down at all to appease the president. I don't have any reason to believe that's the case, but I think that's one of the concerns that some viewers have at the moment. We know that tonight there's an interview with Utah Governor Spencer Cox about his very moving public comments in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. There's also a profile of UFC boss and Trump ally Dana White. So a notable moment for the news magazine as it tries to move past all that drama from last season.
Yeah, all right. Well, then can you also tell us about the Pentagon's new demand for the press to sign a pledge to not obtain or use unauthorized material in their reporting? I mean, this is very unprecedented.
Yeah, it's coming to a head in the next few days. This is a letter that the Pentagon sent out to all the reporters who have credentials in order to access the Pentagon complex. These reporters were told they'll have to sign a pledge, and among the details in that pledge is a promise not to report on any unauthorized information. Essentially, the Pentagon only wants beat reporters to repeat Pentagon talking points. Anything that is leaked to them, any sensitive or unauthorized information, that would be grounds for revoking a press pass. Now, ultimately, this is going to mean that reporters will not have as much access to the physical Pentagon property. They won't be able to interact with spokespeople and with military officials who work in the Pentagon. And ultimately, that may be what Pete Hegseth wants. That may be what the Defense Secretary wants by trying to push the press out. He's been trying to do this in various ways all year long. But this pledge is the most shocking example yet. And many news outlets are talking about taking legal action or just deciding not to sign it and not to be able to report from the Pentagon. It's important to keep an eye on this because it's one of those many examples of the Trump administration trying to restrict access. But you know what happens when access is restricted? Journalists just find other ways to tell the stories. Sometimes it is better to be on the outside than it is to be on the inside. So in the case of the Pentagon, sometimes you're going to get better information, better leaks, more important stories from the outside. We'll see if that happens in this case.
Yeah, and Brian, you're out with a new column for CNN.com about consumer pushback helping Jimmy Kimmel get back on the air. I mean, what's the takeaway there?
Yeah, all of this related in a way, because we're talking about Paramount and having to settle with Trump over 60 Minutes, talking about new press restrictions employed by the administration. Well, look at what happened in the last 2 weeks with Jimmy Kimmel as an example of effective pushback. The pushback that helped get Jimmy Kimmel back on the air, first at ABC nationally, then with Sinclair and Nexstar giving in and ending the blackout on local stations. It's a sign that consumer pushback works. It's a sign that the media marketplace is driven, yes, by free speech, but also by the free market. And so in the case of Kimmel, I have a column about this on CNN.com this weekend. In the case of Kimmel, you have so many frustrated fans calling stations. You had advertisers feeling the pressure. You had employees feeling the pressure. All of that really contributed to Kimmel's reinstatement by ABC and to the end of the local station blackout. And I've seen a lot of folks point out this weekend, this may be a model in other situations going forward because Trump administration pressure is not going away. But one of the effective responses is that kind of consumer pushback or backlash that we saw in the case of Kimmel.
Well, as we know, Brian, money talks. Thanks so much for joining us this morning and thanks for your reporting.
Thank you.
Well, when Jimmy Kimmel was suspended from ABC, it did spark a national outcry over free speech and censorship, as we were just talking about. In tonight's episode of The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, CNN's Jake Tapper takes a closer look at how the Kimmel suspension unfolded and the story behind the decision to bring him back on air. He also examines the role of the government and big business in the case and what this says about the future of the First Amendment.
While Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air, Charlie Kirk's voice was silenced forever when he was killed. And in this time of escalating partisanship, both sides can hopefully at least agree on this. The First Amendment is a right that is fundamentally American.
Are we in an era where free speech is under attack in a way we haven't seen in a long time?
I'm pretty worried. Right now, I think we are in a perilous stage. And again, we have a president who is willing to use any lever of power against his enemies, whether it violates the First Amendment or not.
I'll be sure to tune in an all-new episode of The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper that airs tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.